Well, first of all, welcome everyone to the Basic Concepts webinar. My name is Isabel. I am the Customer Support and Education Manager here at Pipefy. And today, what I'm going to do is present you guys with an introduction to the basic concepts in Pipefy structure. So it's not a product demonstration. We're going to present some concepts and some screens inside of Pipefy, but it's not going to be I assume since you guys are joining a basic concepts webinar that you haven't been using Pipefy for a very long time. So I'd like to welcome you guys to Pipefy and let you guys know that I'm here to help with anything you need regarding any of our basic concepts or the more advanced features inside the in-app chat, with which I'm going to show you guys how you can use it. So before we get into exploring what Pipefy actually is, we need to engage with the concept of what a process is. Many people struggle with this concept. They tend to think that processes are documented complex activities, when in real life, processes can be any recurring activity, from making coffee every morning to flying an airplane or assembling a car. The Oxford Dictionary defines a process as a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. So, in other words, it's an activity that's made of a series of smaller parts that are followed by a person or a team to achieve an end. Inside Pipefy, each of your processes is called a pipe. You're probably thinking that your company or your area may not have reached the sophistication or maturity level required to have processes, right? Well, that's wrong because all companies and areas have processes. From a tiny startups with two, three people to huge enterprises, processes are literally everywhere, even if they haven't been mapped or managed yet. Some examples of processes we see in most companies are accounts payable and receivable, task management, expense reimbursement, recruitment, and so on. Processes and projects are not the same thing, and consequently, they should not be managed using the same methods or the same tools. It's very important that we set them apart to understand why there is a way to manage each one. So, first, we're going to go through the definition of a project. A project is finite, so it has a clear beginning, middle, and end. It's defined by a goal or a time frame, such as building a house, throwing a party. Projects, they're defined and they're unique. So once they reach the defined limit, either it's the time or the goal, they come to an end. Processes, on the other hand, they're continuous. They're cycles happening repeatedly. The more you execute a process, the more you learn about it and improve it. Due to the fact that they are continuous, processes normally have execution rules or standards. So, project and task management tools don't normally offer the possibility of establishing those standards, which Pipefy does. That's why it's very important that you use the right tool to manage each one. Managing processes as if they were projects and vice versa causes mistakes and inefficiencies. Some simple examples of processes are manufacturing cars, manufacturing cars, drafting contracts, making pizzas if you're working at a pizza place, etc. There are numerous process management methodologies out there in the market. Most of them are considered way too complex or too expensive for most operational teams. BPMN, the first one we mention here, are the famous flowcharts. It's normally the first contact most people have with process management, and even though it's pretty good for mapping your processes, so you draw your process with using the little boxes, arrows, it's really good for mapping your processes, but when it comes to managing daily operations, it's not really useful. So you're probably going to leave your flowchart uh, in the bottom of a drawer, and you're never going to use it on your day-to-day activities. Lean, our second methodology here, is a very well known management methodology, mostly due to the Toyota production system. Our main interface was based in one of Lean's most popular tools, Kanban, which we'll talk about more in a few minutes. And lastly, SIPOC here, or IPO, is our CEO's favorite methodology. The acronym stands for Suppliers, Input, Process, Output, and Customers. It focuses on mapping processes and understanding how they work. We'll also talk a little bit more about how a SIPOC works further along this webinar. As I mentioned, our main interface is a Kanban, so we need to actually explore that concept. So what is Kanban? It was developed in the 1950s by an industrial engineer at Toyota called Taiichi Ono as an inventory control system. So when it was first invented, Kanban was a physical card, a paper card, that went through the phases in the production line in the Toyota factory to help control their parts inventory. So basically, there were cards going through different phases of a process. In Pipefy, it works pretty much the same way, except for the fact that both the cards and the phases are virtual. They're inside your computer. The first contact most people have with Kanban is this example here, this board with three phases: to do, doing, and done, with little sticky notes representing the activities. This format is used mostly for task and project management, and it's very effective for this purpose. In our main interface, however, what you can do is customize the phases of your Kanban. So instead of simply being to do, doing, and done, you can add different phases of your process and add fields to establish execution rules and standards. So the main difference between using Kanban for project management, so using to do, doing, and done, and process management, is that you can create the execution steps of your process, which are the phases, and the standards in the execution, which are the fields. One of the main benefits of having a Kanban interface is that it ensures a dynamic and transparent management. So every user can easily access the pipe and easily see what each person is doing, what needs to be done next, etc. So Pipefy's CEO and founder, Alessio Alonso, is an expert in process management and improvement. Even with all the knowledge he has and all the experience he had with managing processes, he was facing many difficulties managing the processes in his previous company. So, what he did was search the market for all the available solutions, but everything he found was either too simple for his needs, so it didn't offer the possibility of creating the standards he needed, or too complex for his team to understand and adapt. So, he was in a very difficult position. He saw many available tools, but none of them catered to his specific needs. So that was when he decided to create Pipefy, and he defined it as an easy, dynamic, and fully customizable way to manage processes of all types. So Pipefy is the best way to manage all your company's processes in a single platform. What sets Pipefy apart from all the other alternatives in the market is the fact that it's simple to use and easily customizable. Our main focus is on empowering managers to create and manage their own process without technical knowledge or IT support. So, what we want to do with our tool is to empower you or your manager to own your process and be able to create the phases, change the fields without depending on your IT department to do each little change. So your company structure inside Pipefy is very similar to your company's actual structure. The company encompasses all your team members and the processes you manage. Each process in a team is made of phases. So the phases here are the steps in your execution, and inside each phase you have the fields that are the execution rules. The cards or the activities, because a card can represent different things in different processes, flow through your pipe's phases until they're completed. So when you first access Pipefy, this is the screen you're going to see. So this is your company. This is your company's main screen inside Pipefy. You can have as many pipes, so each of these little squares here are your pipes, and you can have as many pipes as you need in your company. Your dashboard is made of a series of elements. So I'm going to go through some of these elements real quick so you know what happens where you click on the screen, right? So this up here is the name of your company. If you click on the logo, so Pipefy's logo from any screen, so if you're inside a pipe, inside your uh, advanced features, whenever you click here, you're going to come back to this screen where your pipes are displayed. This view we're seeing here is the pipes view. So you see a list of all the pipes you're a member of. And I'm actually a member of all the pipes in this company. But if I had other pipes, they would be displayed down here as other pipes. If we click here on database, it takes us to a different view where we can see our database tables. So this feature is an advanced feature that enables you to create tables from data you want to create records in or use in your process. So here we have an employee table, and we have created it with this specific field, so name, email, department, ID, and we can actually use these records inside of our process. So when we click on a record here, you can see that we have related cards, so cards that are related to this record. So this makes it a lot easier for us to keep track of uh, the activities in your company. So if you have a reimbursement request, for example, you can use employee records to keep track of them. Then over here we have the reports feature. So we can create reports for our company. This feature lets us gather data from two or more pipes in our company. So I'm going to click here on create new report so you can see the screen. And so we can select the pipes we want to see data from, also select the information we want to display, and we can also filter the information. So for example, if we want to see all cards that are assigned to myself in all 20 pipes, I can create a report for that and save it as well. Then we have the apps and integrations here, which takes us to a screen with two options. So we have automations and email messaging. These two are advanced features that automations let us create automated actions inside Pipefy so you can save a lot of time. For example, when a field is updated, you want to move the card to a next phase, you can do that using automation. And email messaging, which is the feature that lets us send manual emails from inside the card. Up here, we have this little chat icon here is where you click to open the in-app chat and talk to our support team. So you can click on new conversation here to start a chat with any of our team members. And if you have any quick questions, if you want to know how to set something up, simply click here and reach out to our support team. Right next to it, we have the notification. So when we click on it, we can see everything that's been going on inside our pipes and our company. And here, when we click on our profile picture, we're going to see quite a few options. So first we see my tasks, then the help section. So if you want to see help articles for any of our features or how to create a connection, an email template, simply click here and it's going to take you to our help. This option here, if you're a member of two or more companies, you can click here to switch between the companies. The keyboard shortcuts are user settings where we can change our name, email, language, time zone, etc. And if you're a company admin, you're going to see the company settings where you can switch a few of your company preferences. Here we have a button where you click to invite members to your company. And when we add a new member, let me add my email here. When we click on add here, it's going to give us different permission options. So if you're in a plan if you're in the business or above plan, you're going to see these options. So the user can either be a team admin, so a company admin. It has access to all pipes, whether they're private or public, and it can also access the company settings. We urge you to have a lot of caution when giving people the company admin permission because they can literally access the settings and delete your company. So only add the necessary users as company admins. Then you have company members, so they can view and join all public pipes. And we also have the guest. So the guest is a free user we can add to our company, that can only create cards in public pipes. A guest cannot be used, cannot be added to a guest cannot be added to any of your pipes, otherwise it's going to become a team member and it's going to be charged. So pay a lot of attention about that. So let me discard the changes here. And also here we have the activity logs. So it's like a timeline of the activities in our company. So we have if cards became overdue, if cards were created, moved, we can see it all on the activity log here. We also have the option of favoriting pipes. So if we click on this little star here, it goes right down there. And when I make it favorite, it comes to the front of all the other pipes. So this is really useful if you have a lot of pipes you use on your day-to-day activities. This is a personal setting. So if these favorite pipes are not favorited to any other members in the company. So you can favorite your own pipes. And we also have, you can see this little padlock icon here. This is a private pipe, and private pipes can only be accessed by company admins or by users that are invited into this pipe. So if you have any pipes with sensitive information, such as HR or financial information, you can make those pipes private so that no one but the members or the team admins and the pipe members are going to be able to access it. And down here, we also have the button for adding a new pipe, which I'm going to explore a little bit more later. So let's access a pipe. We're going to access our expense reimbursement pipe here. So I can tell you guys a little bit more about the structure of a pipe. So inside Pipefy, as I mentioned, your processes are called pipes. Pipefy enables users to create pipes to manage all types of processes, from simple ones, such as task management, to more complex ones, such as managing an entire supply chain from beginning to end. We'll also go over the elements in the pipe dashboard real quick so you can see an overview of our pipe. So up here, we have the name of the company and the name of the pipe we're in. So webinar company and 101 expense reimbursement. Then we have the back button. So when we're accessing any of our features, so reports, the settings of the pipe, we just click on the back button here to go to the previous page of our navigation. This view we're seeing here on the screen is the Kanban view, as I mentioned. So we have the phases of our process, so screening, approval, payment, and paid. Then we also have the reports view. So the reports, the pipe reports is a little bit different from the company reports because it only displays information from a specific pipe, but you can choose to view and filter all data added to all the fields in your pipe. So in the company reports, we could only see the general attributes here. So ID, title, current phase, etc. When we're inside the pipe reports, we can see all the filters from all our pipes. So for example, I want to filter by department. I'm going to display the department here so you can see the list of departments. And I can scroll down here and specify that I only want to see requests created by the customer success department. So when I click on it, it only displays those records. So this is really useful if you want to extract data to create charts. You can also use the reports to export the data from your pipe. So up here we have the same options: in-app chat, notifications, and your profile picture. Then we have the option of inviting members to the pipe. So when you invite members into the company, they're going to be able to view and access all public pipes. But when we have, for example, if our expense reimbursement pipe were private, we would need to add the users to the pipe by inviting them either by username, if they're already members of your company, or email. Next to it, we have the members list. So when we click on this little person icon here, we can see a list of all the people that are members of this specific process, and they have different permission levels as well. You guys can recall that we had 3 different permission levels in the company. So in the pipe, we have 5 different permission levels. So you can see here we have, let me click next to my name. So I am a pipe admin. A pipe admin can create and edit cards in the pipe as well as manage the pipe settings. So if you want to access the pipe settings, you need to be a pipe admin. You can also be a pipe member. So members can create new cards as well as access the existing ones to edit and move them across the pipe. We also have the start form only. So you add users to your pipe, but they can only access the start form to create pipes. Then we have the restricted view. So if you add a user as restricted view, it's only going to be able to create cards, but it's only going to view or edit cards that have been created by him or were assigned to him. And then we have read only. So the read only user can view all cards, but he cannot edit any of them. He can only leave comments in them. Let's move back to our Kanban view here. Then let me open this option right here. We have the pipe metrics. The pipe metrics are a couple of charts, pre-generated charts. So we cannot use our reports to generate any other charts. But in the metrics, we can see general data for our pipe. So how many cards are on time, late, or expired in a chart. And then we also have a cumulative flow. So it displays how many the cards were in each of the phases along the timeline. And we can also filter by today, yesterday, current week, last week, current month, etc. So moving back to our pipe, we have the activity log. Sorry. So we have the activity log as we did in the pipe. We also have the activity log in the, sorry, as we had in the company, we also have the activity log in the pipe. And you can use this to keep track of any alterations. For example, if anyone deleted a field or added a new field, it's going to be displayed here in the activities. Then we have the filter options. So we can either filter cards by label, if we have any labels, by team members. So let me click on Chewy here. If I click on him, I'm only going to see his cards. Or we can also use it to search for information in the card's title or subtitle. So this here, Dinner in New York, is the title. Food, $35 and September 7th, or food and $35 are subtitles. So I can search for example, food. And I'm only going to see cards that have this word in either of the titles or subtitles. And then last in the top here, we have the settings. So the gear icon, when we click on it, it opens a sidebar with all the possibilities of customizing the pipe we have. So we have pipe settings, start form, phases, members, apps, connections, labels, many options here. Uh, for example, when we access the pipe settings here, what we can do is change the name of our pipe. For example, change the icon if we want to. So we have pre-selected icons. You can choose the one that best identifies your pipe. Then the title here. So we choose which of the start form fields is gonna be used as title of our cards. Then for the subtitles, we can select from all the fields in all of our phases. So it's very important that you select as subtitles fields that you're probably going to want to search for. So it's very important. The summarized layout, it's only used when you use a connection or a connection field to create a connected card because this is the data that's going to be displayed. Then we have the expired alert. So this is the maximum SLA for the entire pipe. So if we establish that it cannot take more than 10 days for our expense reimbursement requests to be processed, we can add 10 days here. And once they reach this amount of days inside our pipe, but outside of a final phase, they're going to be tagged as expired. We also have the option here of only counting weekdays. So it's only going to count from Monday to Friday. Then we have the permissions. As I mentioned, we have public pipes. So everyone in the company can access this pipe and guests can create cards in it. And then we have the private pipe. So when we set a pipe as private, users, only company admins or users that are already in the pipe are going to be able to access. Then we have a couple of authorizations here. So you can establish that users can only edit the cards they're assigned to, for example. So I would be able, if I set that option up, I would be able to see all the cards, but when I opened them, I couldn't edit. I opened a card that was not assigned to me. I would not be able to edit it. And then cards can only be deleted by admin users. We also have this option down here to clone to. So I have a lot of pipes here. And if I wanted to clone this pipe, so create a copy of it with the same phases and fields, but no, not the cards, I would just come down here to clone to. Let me switch here. So this up here, so approval is the name of the phase. I can click on top of it to change the name of our phases. The numbers next to it are the total amount of cards in the phase. The yellow number are the cards that are late, so they have exceeded the phase SLA, which we established inside the phase settings here. So we click on edit this phase to establish the phase SLA, and the expired is the one I explained it to you guys. When we open this little menu here, we have the option to edit this phase. Let me open the page to show you guys. To move this phase, oops, sorry. To move this phase right, so it's going to be moved to the right, it's going to be after payment. To move left, to create a new phase, and this option here is where you establish where you want to move cards from this phase to. So cards in the phase approval can be moved to which of the phases. You can turn on or off to create a flow of information in your process. And we also have the option of deleting the phase. It's very important that you don't just delete a phase. For example, this phase has cards in it. So if I click on it, you can see that deleting this phase will also delete all associated cards, content, and settings permanently. So if you have cards in a phase or if you have automations relating to this phase, it's important that you don't just delete the phase without thinking about it. Inside the phase settings here, we have the name of the phase, the fields in it, and also the advanced options. So we can automatically assign cards to a specific user whenever cards enter this phase. The email templates, which is an advanced feature. The description of the phase, which is displayed under the cards in it. And the late alert, which, as I mentioned to you guys, is the phase SLA. So I have been mentioning phases quite a lot, and you can see that we have our process is structured in a logical way. So screening, approval, payment. Each a phase is a step in the execution of a process. So following the Kanban methodology strictly, cards would move laterally from left to right through the phases of our pipe. So this you would only be able to move cards to the next phase if we were to follow the Kanban methodology strictly to the letter. So, but you guys, as I told you guys, you can see that we can edit that for managing nonlinear processes. So if we have processes in which our activities need to skip phases or move back and forth, we can edit that in our settings. So it's not going to be a problem managing nonlinear processes. So the fields are the bricks that build your pipe's form and phases. So when we open the form, clicking on the plus icon here, everything we see here are fields. So employee record, expense category, expense description, how much, etc. The fields exist to let people know what needs to be done at every phase of your pipe. For example, when I open the card in approval, I see this field here asking if I do approve or I don't. In the screening, we have different fields. So we have the responsible for approving and so on. Each of our phases is going to have different fields, and every card that enters this phase is going to see the exact same fields. So here we see do you approve? And when we open another card, we see the exact same field because this is how we set execution standards for our process. So what the fields do is that they help establish and enforce execution standards to prevent mistakes, inefficiencies, and misunderstanding. We have inside Pipefy, so when we click here to customize the phase, we're going to see a list of all the existing fields. You can see we have a lot of different types. Uh, They're separated, they're divided into standard fields and advanced fields, and they help establish what type of information you want to add in your process. So we have short text, long text, checkbox, which is a multiple choice field for selecting more than one option, SNE select, date, date time, and so on. So when we create a field, let me select here. Let's create a short text. So all fields have a label. The label is the name of the field. So then we selected short text, but we could change to long text here, for example. Then we can also add a description. It's going to be displayed right here in light gray, right under the title. And we could also add a help text. So it would be displayed like this, the little eye icon. And you can use the help text to add further explanation, instructions about the field. You can include images, for example, text formatting. If we had a label select field for selecting the priority of our requests, we could use the help text to add a more detailed description about what each label means, for example. Then down here we have the field settings. If we establish that this field is required, it's mandatory, so you need to fill it in before moving the card on to the next phase. So it's gonna Pipefy is not gonna let you move the card forward if you don't fill in this field. Then we have minimal view. So when we click on it, the field's going to be displayed like this as a link. So when you click on it, it's going to be displayed like this. So if you have many optional fields that you don't need to display in the main view, so you can use this to make your phase or forms shorter. And then we also have this option here, establishing whether this field is editable on other phases or not. If we uncheck this box, we are only going to be able to add information to this field in the phase it belongs to. So we're not going to be able to edit this data outside of this phase. So a card here is a visual representation of an activity in a pipe. So when we open the Kanban view, we can see many different cards in many different phases of our pipe. They can represent different things in different processes. So if this were a sales pipeline, each card would represent a sales opportunity. In a purchase process, it would represent an item to be purchased, etc. In our case here, each card represents a reimbursement request. The cards are divided into two sides. So we have the left side of the card, which displays all the information added to the previous phases. So we can see here start form and the other phases. So screening, approval, we can see all the data added to the previous phases of our process. And we can also choose to display other information by clicking here. So this phase has email templates, which are automated emails. And we chose to display here. We can also choose to display comments or email on this side. And up here, we saw that this card is connected to this other one because it was created using a feature we called a connection. So it lets us connect to different processes. So when we click here, it opens the data from the card that originated this one in the previous process. So on the right side of the card, we're going to find the fields in the current phase. So this is the things that need to be done in this specific phase before we can move the card on to the next phase. So these are minimal view. So they only open when we click on them. We also see on top here, we have what we call top buttons or fixed fields that we can edit by clicking on this little plus icon here. So we can choose to display or not due date, labels, attachments, checklists, and comments. And these are going to be displayed on top of the card in every phase of your process. And also down here, we can add a quick comment to our card, which is going to be added here. And when we click on comments, it's going to be added to the comments tab. So when we click here on comments, it shows all comments added to the card. We can also use comments to mention your colleagues. So we can say when I use I can mention a colleague, and he or she is going to be notified that he was mentioned inside a card. And down here, we also have the activity log of the card. So everything that happened to it ever since it was created. So it was created, the responsible for approving was updated, and so on. So we can see clearly who added each field of the card, who created it, etc. So let's move back to our company dashboard. So we can talk a little bit about creating a pipe. Before we actually click on the button to start creating a new pipe, I'd like to take a few minutes to suggest we go back to the SIPOC methodology we mentioned way back in the beginning of the presentation. Um, so before you create a process, so creating a process is pretty simple. You're going to just click on add a new pipe here. But before we actually get to creating it, we need to analyze what happens in our process. The first step is defining the input of our process. So what does it take to set our process in motion? What's the minimal information we need to start our activity? So this is what we're going to ask for in the start form of our pipe. So the start form is when we click on plus, when it opens, that's the start form. Our form should ask for all the relevant information to kick off our process without adding unnecessary fields. So the more fields we add, if we have an excessively long form, it's going to make it a lot harder for people to actually fill them all. So pay close attention to the fields you add to the form. Then, before establishing the steps of the execution, we're going to establish the output. So what's the expected result of our process? In the case of our expense reimbursement, so let me move back here. So in the case of the expense reimbursement pipe, at the end of the expense reimbursement, we want our expenses to be analyzed and reimbursed. So that's our expected result. So what's going to be our success metric to determine what will be the results, what we're going to use to measure the result of our process. We need to measure our results to improve our process. So this is really important. So you need to pay close attention that all the data you're going to want to extract using reports, for example, you need to add in your process because you're only going to be able to extract data you've added to your process in a specific step of the execution. After we established the point A, which is the input, and the point B, the output, we need to find out what does it take to go from one point to the other. So these are going to be the phases and fields of your process. So this is when you're going to start thinking about how many phases you're going to need, which fields are going to need to be in each phase. So in our expense reimbursement, we have the input, which is the form where we need to select the record for the employees in the database I mentioned to you guys, the category of the expense, the description, how much it was, and so on. And once it's created, it's going to go through the phases of our process where our team is going to follow the instructions to make sure that at the end of the process, it was duly processed and we didn't forget any steps of our execution. So as I mentioned, uh, in the practical sense, creating a new pipe is super simple. So we just move to our company dashboard, click on add new pipe, then where we can select from one of the existing process templates. Pipefy offers hundreds of different process templates, which you can see inside the categories here or in our templates page. So pipefy.com/templates. So you can see the categories here and you can select any of those processes to clone into your company. So you're going to clone the exact structure into your pipe. But you can also choose to create a new process from scratch. So let's click here. When we click on it, we're going to go to a screen where we need to add the name of our pipe. So new pipe. And we click on create it. When we click on creating a new pipe, it's going to come with standard phases, but we can also add new phases. So we have the plus here. I can click on it to create a new phase. Creating a new phase is super simple, and we can also add fields. So we could add fields to the form. Let me click here and create a new card. So every time you need to create a new card, you can click on the plus here on or on a plus up here next to the inbox, Or, as I mentioned, we have the keyboard shortcuts. You can see we have N as a shortcut for creating a new card. So if I hit N in my keyboard, it's going to automatically open the form. And when we open a card in the phase, we have the option of customizing the phase to create new fields. So this is where we can choose to create any type of field to customize our phases and make them exactly what we want them to be. As I mentioned to you guys, we offer hundreds of pre-designed process templates that were developed by the solutions design team, which you can use to base your processes on. For example, if we want the accounts payable process, we click on Learn More to find out what are the phases in this process, what it's used for. So if we scroll down here, so we can see why it's important for your business and how you can clone, sorry. So you can use it for accounts payable now. You can clone it into your pipe so you can use this pre-designed template. Besides the process templates I mentioned, we also have a few different features and apps that help you improve your process and save time. Some of them I have already mentioned. So automation, connection, email templates, SLA and alerts, integrations, reports, database, field conditionals, etc. We also have a few native integrations with Slack, Google Hangouts, and other apps, as well as calendar apps, a calendar app that lets you view all cards with due dates in a calendar view, and a sprint planner complete with a burn down chart. So we have, I'm not going to get deeper into any of those features, but we have specific webinars for each of them. So if you're interested in learning more about any of our advanced features, feel free to browse our webinar page to find them. You can find information about every feature there. I'd like to thank everyone for joining the Basic Concepts webinar. If you have any question, any doubt, feel free to reach out via the in-app chat or directly writing to support@pipefy.com. Thanks again for joining, and I hope to see you all in our next webinars.